Good afternoon, everybody. It is the Pga Dfs First Look Show for the Waste Management Phoenix Open, the greatest show on turf. Mr. Ulrich, welcome back to the program. Thank you for joining me each and every Monday. And this week, while there may not be a million fans and thousands of, I'll call them weekly golf fans that attend this event, still has its lure, and the golf course is another fun one. Welcome up, and how did you see last week going for you?
I mean, yeah, let's call them what they are. They're drunkards, Jason. They're hooligans. Throw them off the tour, Doug. They don't belong here. But no, I mean, it is going to suck kind of watching this event without all the fans, for sure. Last week was interesting, for sure, man. I mean, lots of stuff going on, obviously. I guess start with Patrick Reed just getting his 9th win, just like cruising to another win. Dude just can come in and all the cheating stuff aside, all the rule stuff aside, like the guy just gets by with his short game and putter so well. It's actually incredible, man. I mean, the way he is able to grind out these tough events. He wasn't even in the top 60 of greens in regulation. Like, how does that happen at Torrey Pines? I just don't understand. So, obviously, we got to talk about the rules thing. I'll let you go on it first. I'll just say, guys, we appreciate you guys showing up. Smash that like button when you come in, guys. Let's try and get over 100 for the show. Yeah. I mean, we should be. Everyone's here. Smash that like coming in. We appreciate it. And Jason will give you the good take, and I'll give you my take on Patrick Reed.
Yeah. So. Thank you for that too. Yeah, appreciate it. Make sure you subscribe to our channel as well. All right, so I'm going to give you, and I talked briefly with my buddy behind the glass, Jordan, about this before coming on air. And here's the golfer, a former assistant golf pro take in it. All right, if you and I, Jeff, are out there on a Sunday just competing, either in a match play or stroke play, doesn't matter, and you and I are playing, and my ball goes left, and neither you or I could see it because the height of the hole just not allows us to see it. If we go up to the ball and we see a lie there, the likelihood of me asking you for an embedded ball rule, it's not really likely. Let's start with that. I think that's a clear way to start. However, if I do feel that the ball is embedded, I am allowed to then ask you, and if you and I both come to the agreement that it is embedded, I am allowed a free drop. Okay, so I think that based on the rules, he probably did it right. However, am I even asking you for an embedded ball rule to begin with in that situation? A, probably not. And B, in addition, we have the video. Now, does that mean that we should be allowed to use the video? That would be my question first back to you, because we don't have the capability of getting the video for every golfer on every shot right now. So should we be able to use it in a situation like this when we do have it?
Yeah, so to answer that question, I don't think they should. It's like you said, they don't have it for every golfer. So how can you just apply it to certain golfers, right? So I don't think the video argument holds any water. But to me, Patrick Reed he's a product of the PGA not performing their duties. There's no rules officials there. There's not people watching every shot. There's no one to say, hey, Patrick, that ball bounced, buddy.
Which is crazy to me.
Like, that's a penalty. You just picked up your ball. That's a penalty.
Yep.
There's no one watching. Patrick Reed is showing the tour how ridiculous their rules enforcement is. That's all he's doing. Yeah. I mean, he's definitely cheating. I guess. I don't know. We've seen this with Reed more than once. So
that's
at
the problem.
This point, if you come to that conclusion, I'm not going to say you're wrong because you're probably right. But he's a product of the PGA Tour not enforcing their rules, not having the proper officials with every group, someone there to say, okay, this is what happened on this shot. And for the tour, the players benefit too. The PGA wants the tour to be like this old boys guy where everyone's enforcing themselves. Patrick Reed is saying, sure, let's do that. I'll just keep bending the rules until you force me not to. He's a product of the PGA Tour. That's all he is. And I don't think it's ethical or anything. I wouldn't be playing like that, but that's where this is coming from, man. Like, it's insane how much money is on the line every week, how much money the PGA Tour makes, and they don't have guys on every hole. Like,
it's crazy to me.
What the heck is going on, man? Like,
there's plenty of PGA professionals in each city that they visit that would gladly, even probably likely volunteer their time to do this, let alone get paid to do it. Which
wouldn't even be a volunteer position, though. Like, NHL referees aren't volunteer. Like, get a union going, get something going where you have PGA officials at every event. I just, it's one of those things for years. I just do not understand it, man. It's like having a tennis match, Jason, without a lines person, without an official. That's what it's like every week on the PGA.
It's crazy to me. And I think the worst look for Patrick Reed, because they have the video of the entire interaction. The first thing he says,
terrible look. It is a
the
terrible
first
look.
thing he says to the marshal is, "Did you see it bounce?" So he had embedded ball rule when that ball left his club face from the fairway. He knew he was going for the embedded ball rule, and it's just, listen, Patrick Reed again. He takes that fine line of, I'm going to police myself because that's what we've done in the past, and this is how I police myself.
Yep.
Basically, I don't. I'm going to try and use the rules in every situation to my advantage. And here he was. He got a free drop, perfect drop, put it to 12 feet, made the putt. Now, that goes to say, as we transition out of the drama, he made the putt. He made every putt this weekend. He did it again. He looked so much better than everybody on Sunday. Granted, even with the rules stuff, he was the only golfer that didn't miss a shot on Sunday. I think maybe we should talk about that for at least a minute and a half.
No, and that's why I wanted to bring it up first. I mean, again, all this rule stuff aside, and it really does feel like he feeds off this stuff,
It does. It's crazy.
It's like, yeah, like, sure, challenge me cheating, like penalize me. I don't care. Like it just almost seems to like he gets fueled off this stuff. It's so strange. And I don't know if you like give him credit for that, or like I said, I'll give him credit for being this masterclass short game guy. Cause honestly, maybe you probably Jordan Spieth, when he was in his prime doing that stuff, that's probably the only other example we have of a guy this consistently winning with just a short game putter. It's pretty crazy what he does. Like 9 wins. Like I said, there's just no consistency with the ball striking. I mean, he makes shots, but like I said, you look at the stats. I mean, he's not even out there. So you got to give him credit for that. Absolutely. Talk about it 2 different separate veins, obviously. So
for sure. Now we can move on to Torrey Pines, the actual golf course here. And listen, that to me, again, provided a fantastic event, was not a major, but now we get it for a major. The winning score, if they didn't use the North Course, now granted, Reed shot like 8 under on the North Course or whatever he did. We take that out. Sure. I think we get like a close to single digit winner. Mm-hmm. But not only that, it was a really great display of what I think a 7,700 yard, good design, long rough, challenges everybody. I'm really excited for the U.S. Open, probably more so than I was before. I think it's just, again, a great golf course, a great venue to do so.
It should be fun. It should be a close. It's always tight at Torrey Pines too. And the one thing I like about it, every time this event, like Reed's such a good front runner, but there's good in play opportunities often. Like we get guys at the front, then they make a triple. Those green complexes are so hard to get up and down onto. It's going to be a fun venue. I mean, I don't think it's like the most creative venue, but I think for a tournament, Torrey Pines really works. So it's going to be a good US Open.
So my question to you there is, we saw the best in the world, Rahm, McIlroy, maybe you can even throw in Adam Scott. Maybe he's not like top best in the world, but certainly Rahm and McIlroy. Why did they struggle on Sunday? Why could they not get it going, but yet Reed goes out there and doesn't miss a golf shot?
I don't know, man. I mean, I really thought this was going to be the time like Patrick Reed actually got caught. I mean, I felt Scott would get it together. He had a bad driving day on Saturday, and that just bled over. Rahm just could not. I mean, Rory this is just typical Rory Sunday now. I mean, just, teases you a little, and then it's just like screws off and doesn't do anything. Sungjae Im looked like he was going to be the guy for a bit, but I mean, that was asking too much.
It was,
from 4 under, right? So you can't fault him. But yeah, Rahm, Rory, Scott, probably a couple of other names we're forgetting, but none of those guys, they didn't even really make a serious run, to be honest. It was Hovland was the only dude who was up there.
And the only other name I'll throw out you that I want to discuss for a minute is finally breaking Torrey was Xander Schauffele. He had to sneak through the weekend, but South Course, he played great over the weekend. I think he had 268s, if I'm not mistaken, or 68, 69.
Played really good, yep.
Yeah. Do we now get rid of that silly course history debate where it doesn't fit Xander and now he's in play at the U.S. Open?
Yeah, I mean, definitely. I think so. I mean, I know we talked about him last week, and I just didn't want to go back there because basically the last 2 years of this event, I've said, well, you shouldn't look at the course history for Xander. This is fine. It's a U.S. Open venue, and then he's missed the cut. I just didn't want to say that for the third year in a row. Like it was a complete personal bias thing. But realistically, it's a U.S. Open venue. He's a West Coast guy. Grew up 50 miles from the course or something. It should be a great venue for him. And then I think you saw that bleed through. I think it's going to give him a lot of confidence when this event rolls around. So yeah, unfortunately for Xander, his odds are so short now that it's like, what do you do? Do you invest now? You might as well just wait till the event rolls around. Hope
basically just
a bad stretch.
Yeah, hope for a bad stretch. So my last question about Torrey is, this is maybe more an event basis for you, Geoff, an event-based question. We saw a lot of similarities between the final leaderboard here, which was a very grinded out, tough event, and the Memorial, which ended up being, again, kind of like a U.S. Open setup, really tough to hit fairways, long, rough, same leaderboards. I think it was like 8 or at least half of the top 13 were on identical leaderboards. Some of those names that we wouldn't suspect, like Henrik Norlander, Ryan Palmer. Now, granted, some of the other guys are the best players in the world. We expect them to be on the leaderboard. But what about Norlander and Palmer showing up in these grinded out events? Is there a player profile type of thing we should be looking at? Even like a Luke List showing up again here for 2 years in a row.
I think it's just really consistent ball strikers. Like Norlander, when he's hitting his irons, he hits a lot of fairways off the tee, tons of fairways off the tee, and he's just a good long iron player. And I think I'd put Palmer in the same category. Although Palmer was really lighting it up with his putter this week, but even if he wasn't lighting it up, his irons were consistent. He's consistent off the tee too, and I think that's just the key. I mean, guys who are that consistent with their longer irons. You don't have to be the longest hitter. If you're hitting greens from 200 out, like putting it within 15 feet, which is kind of what Norlander was doing, you can give yourself birdies chances on those long par fours. So I would really, more than, not distance. Again, and we bring up distance because it's the easy thing to talk about. But when you're looking at these courses, it's probably realistically, strokes gained approach to me should almost always be at the forefront. And again, I think we saw it this week with guys like Norlander and Palmer and who's the other dude you brought up?
Well, I mentioned that there are just a lot of similarities of the good players too. Like Tony Finau was there, John Rahm was there. Obviously, those are kind of the more obvious ones.
Because those guys are always.
Luke List was the other guy, by the way.
Luke List was the other guy. Again, a guy who actually I talked about. I think was really firing with his irons coming in. So, but yeah, and those other guys always pretty much are up there into the top 20 in strokes gained approach. But for me, that's what it was. They're just good long iron players. They had good weeks off the tee. They're trending well with hitting fairways. And if you get that combo at a tougher venue like Torrey, then I think it's just a product of those guys being good long iron players.
It's a great point. So let's go into a little bit of our DFS review. But before we do, I want to let you guys know that if you're an NBA DFS player today, our ownership projections are free. But in NHL, our rankings are free there. So a great couple of free pieces of content for you. But if you are ready to join us here on the Awesemo Plus side, then get access to all the great tools that we have to offer and our content, of course, for every DFS sport out there with the Awesemo Plus Weekly Pass for $29.95. Of course, that includes everything that we have to offer. And if you just want to join Jeff, Ben, and the golf team and packages start at $3.95 for the Express and $8.95 for the whole package. So make sure you sign up today. Stop guessing and start winning. Join us. And now let's go ahead into our DFS review. And just mentioned Henrik Norlander. We talked about he was the second best value of the week. But Peter Malnati again, Jeff, just showing up in this type of, I don't know if this is like a consistent thing we're going to keep seeing or not, but 13.5 on the value to return. Average is 9.37. A couple of other names up there: Sam Ryder, Joseph Bramlett, JT Poston, Luke List, of course, Patrick Reed, Robbie Shelton, Lanto Griffin, Roy Sabatini, and Ted Potter Jr. What? Where did he come from? It's California. It's early in the season. Maybe that's where he came from. But what surprises do you see out of there, other than Ted Potter, of course?
Yeah, it's a lot of surprising names up there.
Sure.
I don't know. Is Malnati going to be this like Jason Kokrak from 2 years ago, where everyone was just like, "Oh, Jason Kokrak will regress," and then he just finished like top 20 every event he started and was like the nuts DFS play. It kind of feels like we're getting there with Malnati, where it's like you better just plug him in, because I don't even know. Like he's a really good putter, but like his irons are going from like okay to like fire. Like it's like it's either they're okay or they're fire. Like it's so they're obviously fire this week. Yeah, he's a dude. I'm gonna just have to start playing. Like I think I'm going to just put him in some lineups from now on until we get like a 2 event like kind of okay
miscut streak.
Yeah, regression, I guess. Another name that
I want to throw at you, kind of exactly similar, is Robbie Shelton, a guy that we've talked about a bit that he's going to have plenty of missed cuts, but when he makes the weekend, he typically ends up in the top 30 or 25, and he's a guy that's rarely priced over 6,500. So Shelton, Malnati, are these guys that we should just blindly roster, or do you think it's course specific with them? It doesn't seem to be, I guess, is why I'm asking the question.
Yeah, Shelton, I think if I can remember correctly, he's kind of a West Coast guy. So I want to say that like this venue might have suited him a little bit. But yeah, you're right. I saw him up there and I'm like, oh, here we go. Robbie Shelton week. He's going to be tough to figure out. If he stays in form for a bit though, you could get a couple more weeks like this from out of him for sure. He'll pop up in these value sort of points things every now and then. Good, talented young player. Like if he could ever just get a little bit more consistency, definitely like a player who could break through at some point. So a good GPP target. That's kind of what all these guys are though. I mean, Ryder, we've seen like have like little bursts of form. Yep. Norlander's really tempting because he'll have like 2 or 3 events like this in a row. And then they're all pretty much just for me, other than like Reed. And they're guys you can sprinkle in. You want to watch if they're starting to fire up with their irons a bit, and you'll probably see some carryover from a couple of them. But you also probably see a couple of them, bail out this week too. It wouldn't shock me. So,
yeah. And now when we switch over to the top 10 ownership, for the most part, was a really good week for the chalk. In the top 10 or 11 owned guys, only one missed the cut out of them, and that was, of course, I believe it was Harris English, but he was kind of a little bit ways down there. But for the most part, Adam Scott, 22% owned, came 4th. Rory, 22% owned, came 33rd DFS scoring. Xander, 22% owned, 5th. John Rahm, 12th. Basically, no big guys missed. Even Harris English, he was like 13% owned. Where a lot of people missed was English, Horschel, kind of those mid-tier, mid-ownership guys last week. So if you played the top of the board, it's likely you had a relatively profitable week. But again, 6 of 6 percentage was only about 7%, Jeff. So what do you make of that? Top 10 owned, basically only one missed cut, but only 7%, 6 of 6. So that just says it's really hard to pick those bottom end guys.
It is. Yeah, the bottom end guys, especially at an event like Torrey, right? You also had the Matt Wolff withdraw. I can't remember what his ownership was.
It was like 14 or 15. Yeah, that's a good point.
So that definitely added to it. Definitely heard my week. I can tell you that. Should have listened to the chat last week, although they were bringing up that. No, I don't think anyone really knew he had a hand injury. Anyways, it's definitely one of those weeks where, the elite players always seem to grind it out at Torrey to at least made cuts, or we usually get a pretty good percentage on the top guys. But then you had, like you said, the mid-tier Jason Days,
Jason Day was
the Wolff missed cut, a couple other guys like that. So yeah, it was a weird week. It did feel like, with the guys in contention, maybe we could have had like a bigger 6 of 6, but I guess those lower end dudes kind of fell off, and the Matt Wolff thing definitely didn't help people. But
yeah, for all intents, it was a pretty good week for the chalk. I'm surprised at with the 7%, to be honest with you, but none of the chalk, except for Adam Scott, ended up in the optimal lineup. As let's quickly review that. Scored 591 points, and we just saw David in our chat say he had 572. That's a darn good score. Very close to the optimal. Might have been even the 3rd or 4th best lineup created last week. So definitely a great lineup. Congrats on that. Regardless of the contest it was in, just keep plugging away. You'll end up with the right contest someday soon. Trust me, with a score like that. And had Patrick Reed in there. Obviously, Victor Hovland, number 2, no surprise. Scott and Zalatoris, I got to give myself a slight pack on the bat for this one, Jeff. It was my hot take on the Live Before Lock show that both of them would end up in the top 10. Not bad. Must have been my first hot take hit in a little while. They both had a great week and good scoring week as well. And then Norlander, Malnati, who we just brought up. No surprise to see them. Let's match that up, though, with the top GPP lineup. That was Gut, Reed, Hovland, Zalatoris, but instead, and Malnati, but instead of the other two guys, it went to Cam Davis. And you're ready for this one? Francesco Molinari back. What a Sunday for Buck. I378. I'm really not sure how to read that other than that. Buckeye 378. Single entry lineup, used 50K. And what a Sunday he got out of his players. Like I said, he got 6 under out of Molinari. He got a couple unders, obviously, from Hovland, Zalatoris, and Malnati just put up a ton of points. So the single entry bros are back in action. Jeff, what do you think about that, especially at Torrey Pines? Kind of goes to show you that that packed leaderboard can create a ton of movement on these DFS boards as well.
Absolutely. Yeah, it does create a lot of movement. Torrey Pines is a great DFS event too for that reason. I mean, there was probably a ton of movement on this lineup. Obviously, Reed was sewn up, but Davis was all over the place Sunday. He was like four over, and then I think he finished at 1 over. Molinari going low. Zalatoris ended with an eagle, didn't he? I think he did.
Yeah, tap an eagle, basically.
So that probably put this guy over the top.
Yeah, you're probably right, actually, now that I think about it. You're probably right. Yep.
Yeah. So I got 2 things to take from this. First of all, I really feel stupid for not playing Zalatoris. I knew I'm actually surprised he got up to that ownership because I thought people would really lay off him here, just having not seen too much of him. But I thought it was a great venue for him. He's such a good tee to green player. Like he is right up there with the elites in certain terms of tee to greens. When you get to tough
even
courses,
showing around the green last week too. He's not just a ball striker.
Yeah, the only thing that held him back from really competing was just putting. He just missed some putts, and everyone misses putts at Torrey, and like that's the weakness of his game. But still, to get up there with not putting well it just shows how strong a tee to green game player is. And the other thing is, what tournament is Francesco Molinari winning this year? Because I am back on board. I'm full throttle, Chesco.
It honestly looks like he's back. I know that this may
calling it.
Our buddy Ben Raza just a little bit going forward.
Can tell Ben this week on Wednesday that I'm calling game. Francesco's back. Oh, no. He's winning soon. Too bad for Ben.
Yeah, we're going to have to take a look at the schedule. Maybe Valspar is a good spot for him. Molinari just hits a ton of greens, and he's great around the green and good with Riviera coming up if he stays in form. I think he lives in LA now too. So
there we go.
Yeah, take an eye on that one. All right, let's go to our pro review and see if any of our friends and family here were able to find some good scores. And I got to start with Alex Awesemo Baker because guess who had the most of Francesco Molinari of any pro out there? It was our buddy Alex. Went with 36% Molinari. Love to see it. 38% Finau, so pretty good top of the board. Matsuyama was a big, I would say, a chalk miss. It came in like 50th, so not that good. John Rahm, 27. Jason Day just can't quit him. I gotta bring him into my Jordan Spieth, Jordan Spieth Anonymous group. Yeah. I gotta bring him in because it's turning into a problem for him a little bit right now. Victor Hovland, 22%, nice leverage there. Charles Howell was a big miss, had made 17 of 17 cuts here. So Mackenzie Hughes, Gary Woodland, Brooks Koepka, and Jason Kokrak in his top end. 7 golfers over 20%, 2 in the top 10. 4 missed cuts, 85 total, and he came in 35th. So pretty good showing there for Alex. I know that he was right around 15% for 6 of 6 as well. So just about double the field. Goes to show you that when you spread out your ownership, you've got a little bit better chance at it. But I've got a totally different strategy that I want to get to after mine as I run through. What I did this week is I again went for the second straight week of really focusing on my core and not really having anybody else that I would consider not out of the core above 13%. My first miscut actually was Jordan Spieth at 13%, which for me, that's great. I'm glad I'm getting down to the 13 and the 10% range. It took me a while. I was like Alex at the 25% range that he's doing for Day. I've been at Spieth 25% for like 2 years, so I'm glad I'm finally coming off that. I also had Zalatoris at 18%. I just forgot to write that in. And I also used 77 golfers. Do you think Alex and I are using too many?
It's more than I use in those situations, but I mean, again, I don't want to be like the guy who tries to be like the the book on it or anything. It's just, in my opinion,
are we spreading too thin? That's my question. Are we missing some of our good plays because we're allocating too much percentages elsewhere?
Yeah, I think you're probably cutting down on your. I mean, you're cutting down when you do that on your ability to land like a top. You give yourself a better chance at the top, in my opinion, but your floor is probably better by spreading it a little bit thin. But I think over the long run, it's probably better to be a little bit smaller. Again, this is just me guessing and my philosophy on it. Again, it's higher variance, but I think in the long run, again, we're talking about obviously really top heavy tournaments. So you want to be aiming for the top. And I think you do that with a little bit smaller pool, especially with the tools and stuff at Awesemo, able to pick out, the better edges, I think, per week. So that's the way I would approach it with these. It's not like majorly off or anything. I don't think you're like spreading it that thin, but for me, I would probably be a little bit smaller pool. But again, that's just my opinion.
Well, I can tell you that this is a totally different strategy, one that I want to spend a minute talking about because it's really interesting. Obviously, it's super aggressive, but user Sleazy Greasy, I don't know, whatever, however you pronounce it, it's silly. But in any case, this guy he came in second, so in the big $10, so a darn good week. But he had 100% of Will Gordon and Luke List. Now, granted, Luke List had a top 10. Will Gordon made the cut and was top 15 or 20 in DFS scoring. I know he didn't finish there. It had a bad Sunday. But even with his bad Sunday, threw in the only eagle on 13, so he scored well. What do you make of this strategy? I mean, he hit the two low-price guys, so what he was playing for was, I want to have these two guys in every lineup and nail the other four somehow. And that's exactly what he did for the most part.
Yeah. This is more akin to the strategy that I will sometimes employ if I'm doing MME, multi-entry, whatever we call it these days.
Yeah.
MME
is right. Yeah.
I will take a couple guys. I thought I said MMA. Anyways, MME. I'll take a couple guys, and sometimes they'll be value guys, and sometimes they might be like mid-tier, and I'll go really heavy on them. And it usually ends up being like one or two guys like this. And sometimes I will go up, like bump it up to 100%, and then I'll just build around them. It does make it easier from a couple perspectives of you don't have to overthink one range. If you think a range is thin, or if you think there's like really good leverage to be had, like I actually really liked that Luke List call from last week, and that would have been a player I would have considered doing it if I had been like heavier MME last week. So this is a strategy I think is okay personally. You got to be careful with it, and again, you got to know. I think again, it really helps to have tools like Awesemo because you can look at ownership. You can say, okay, List is in this range. He's going to be like a quarter of the ownership of another guy. He's coming in playing well. It's a great venue for him. Let's go. Like let's throw him in every lineup. Let's get some leverage over maybe the value that you think is going to bust and really go for it. The other thing with doing it with a player that's lower price like that, like if List only gets like, he's like T35, he doesn't necessarily kill you. Maybe he makes an eagle and his scoring's okay. So
exactly what Gordon did for you. Yep.
Yeah, exactly. And Will Gordon was like a perfect target for this week too. It was actually like worked out well for this dude. But that's kind of how I approach it sometimes. I'm not saying it's correct either, or if it's long-term better than other strategies, but I will do this if I feel really good about a player or something for sure.
Yep. It's interesting. I personally have never pressed a lock button on a golfer under 7,000. I certainly, don't get me wrong. If you hit these two guys or even semi-hit these two guys like you got with Gordon, you've got a massive chance, especially at Torrey, where we know the cream rises to the crop. So, and I should say the top. I guess you can use those words.
I think it's better too at courses like Torrey, where I think it's more akin to like, grinding it out, players just, even if they make the cut, get the weekend. I think at Birdie Fest, I'd be more akin to kind of spread it out a little bit because you're riding putting variance. You can, if you spread it out a little bit, you can possibly hit that guy who just like gains 9 strokes putting. So I think I think this is a good spot to employ it. Again, it's not something I do maybe every week, but in the right situations. Yeah.
Yeah, granted, you don't know what you're going to get out of these golfers. Somebody just mentioned in the chat Sam Ryder, and listen, I got to watch Sam Ryder play 18 holes because he was playing with on featured groups yesterday, and his swing looks great. Don't get me wrong. Again, I just don't know if I can lock players. Also in the chat, our Nightbot just let everybody know about our free premium content that we got going on today that I told you all about, but also want to let you know about the giveaway we got. Go to our Twitter handle, Awesemo_content, our NBA giveaway to win a free week of Awesemo Plus. We're giving away 5 of them tonight, it looks like. We're going to look at Luka Doncic versus who we got? Nikolai Jokic, who's going to score more points. Luka's pretty nice, I'm not going to lie, but the Joker always comes up big. So go ahead and check our Twitter handle, reply with your response, and you've got a chance to win. Also, go over to our Instagram handle as well and give that a follow. You got a chance to win over there. So check that out. Now, let's go into the greatest show on turf, the Waste Management Open. Really probably got its fame. It's always been a good event. It's been held here, for 30 plus years, but it really got its fame from Tiger Woods hole-in-one that, if you guys watch the documentary, is kind of a big part of it, or at least a pretty big part of it. They put the highlight clip on there a bunch, and it really transformed that hole into the loudest hole of golf. Typically, we have 20,000 fans around just that one hole. We're only going to get 5,000 fans in this week, but there will be the most fans I think we've had since the COVID start. So, Jeff, at least we get that back on a fun golf course. There may not be as many ASU undergrads floating around in the fashion show area this year, but still it should be a fun event.
Yeah, absolutely. Like I said, I think I said this off the top, but they're going to be letting like 5,000 fans in. So I'm sure most of them will just be on the stadium, the hole. So I'm sure there'll still be something going on that hole. But it'll definitely be like a different feeling event. Like you'll definitely notice the lack of fans of this event more so than the other ones.
Yep.
So it'll be interesting to see how it goes. Maybe it'll help some people out. I don't know, but I think it's interesting. Rory decided to play this event for the first time with no fans.
No fans, yeah. He just maybe likes the golf course, which par 71, 7,200 yards, driving accuracy pretty low. Maybe that kind of fits him.
I think it is a good course for Rory. There's a lot of drivers you can hit on this course.
Yep, tons.
The driving distance is a lot bigger here versus like the tour average. So
top 10 last year. Yep, great point.
Yep. I think this will be a good course for Rory. I'm not sure if he's quite there because like.
It's a Sunday again. I just don't get it.
It's every Sunday. It is really weird. I know we kind of transitioned to Rory talk here, but it is becoming a thing with Rory for sure. But I am pretty bullish on him for this week. I'm not going to bet him, I don't think, at plus 1,200, but I'll definitely have some DFS exposure.
Yeah, and I think his price is pretty cheap, which we'll get to in a little bit. 2/3 green, so 66% on the greens in regulation, even though we only hit the fairway 55% of the time. A couple of things go into that. The Bermuda rough, just not that long, 2.5 inches, somewhere around there. Plus, like you mentioned, the driving distance, its average drive is 303 yards. That includes all of the par fours that you're not hitting driver on and such. So that just goes to show you a massive amount of drivers are being hit off these holes, which means obviously shorter clubs in, only being 7,200 yards at the most. This goes to show you why some of the bigger hitters can perform well here. But the course gets its hardness because we really haven't had a minus 20 winner all that often. The average score is minus 17. Both scrambling and putting in the top 20 hardest last year. Putting was top 13th hardest. So the green complexes definitely get you here on the Tom Weisskopf design. Yep. Anything else that you want to throw out? I love this course. It's got maybe the 4 best finishing holes, in my opinion, each and every year. So it's got the par 5 15th that has eagle or double in play with the water surrounding it. Loudest hole in golf on the 16th. The 17th hole is turning into an amazing hole, drivable par 4. They were starting to throw up a bunch of more stands around. Really fun. And then the difficult 18th hole, really just a great stretch. So that's one of the reasons why I love the course.
Yep. And 18 is birdieable too if you get a really good drive out there, but it's also, you stick in the bunker, you can bring bogey into play. It's a great finishing stretch. And I would say one thing about this course, like the greens are pretty big. And like you said, putting, scrambling is tough around it. Kind of similar to last week in that regards, that the greens are complex. And from what I've noticed too, you can hit a lot of greens, but you can't get it close unless you're really firing. And I think that's why we've seen like Webb gained over 7 strokes on his approaches. Woodland gained like over 7 strokes in his approaches when he won. Hideki had a couple of years like that when he won. You can't just hit greens. You have to get it close because they're hard greens to putt. You'll see 3 putts, and they're hard greens to get up and down ones. So, the driving distance helps, but again, you got to get it close. So I think again, really long emphasis on guys' long irons, good strokes gain approach.
Man, it just kind of sounds like Francesco Molinari, but we'll get into here in a minute as his price continues to rise and our kinness to him continues to rise as well here, at least on this show. It'll be our Wednesday show, not so much. Maybe the Tuesday show with Tim and Ben. Probably, definitely not, but maybe we can convince them throughout the week. So before we get into our first clicks, which focus on opening odds, I want to tell you about 2 things. First, that we have put out a new video. First Monday morning, every Monday morning, we're going to come out with our opening odds. Odds are something that, especially in golf and in this industry, if there's a value that comes off right at the opening print, a lot of this industry is super smart and super, what's the word I'm looking for here?
Attention.
They definitely pay close attention to them, and they get bid down very quickly. So we are coming out with I came out with it today, already live, kind of our top 5 bets. I pick one guy from each category as our first clicks. So check that out. And of course, before you make any bet, don't do it without shopping for the best odds. Betting lines change by the minute and can vary greatly depending on which book you are using. That's why it's important to use our Awesemo Odds Shopper tool to find the best line available on the golfer you are betting on and give you that edge you need to beat the house. Head on over to oddshopper.awesemo.com, where we compile the best bets available for every golfer, updated in real time. And of course, sign up free to track your bets. So first clicks, we'll start at the top of the board. And I'm heading to a guy that had a chance on Sunday had he put together an amazing back 9 to possibly win it, was tied for the lead. And the week before at the Desert Classic, or whatever we're calling it now, the American Express, held the lead into the weekend, Jeff, and it's Sung Jae Im at 33-1. When we look at the top 10 price guys on the board, he's double that of the next guy. I think Webb Simpson was at 15-1. So I just saw a little value there with a guy that seems like he's pretty close.
Yeah, I can't disagree. Was one of the first 2 guys I clicked as well. You look at Sung Jae Im, let's just put everything aside. You got Hideki at plus 23, Berger at now plus 1,700 on DraftKings, and Sungjae at plus 33, 34. Of course I'm taking Sungjae, man. I mean, I like this course for Sungjae too. It's Bermuda greens. It's kind of all around. You got to be good at everything. He's driving it well. The approaches have been consistent, really consistent. They were firing good at TOC. They're firing for really good stretches at Torrey. That's the best value at the top for me. It wasn't even close. I expect those odds to go down through the week too. So if you're interested, I would jump on it quick. Definitely. I think you'll see him more. I think you'll see him under 3 eventually. At least if he's not, I mean, whatever. I'm still going to be on him. But that for me stuck out right away too.
So when we drop down, I've already seen a bit of chatter on Twitter. And of course, you've already mentioned to me a couple of times that you're like, oh man, I wish I played this guy last week. He's just so good tee to green. And he was a big part of my lineup as well, which, oh man, Jordan, did I forget to go over my lineups behind the glass? I think I forgot to go over my lineups. Can we circle back to that for a second?
I didn't even submit a lineup today, did I? Oh my God.
Can we circle? Yeah, we're going to circle back to that for a second because I think it's a good transition into this week for me. And I can talk to you guys about a little bit of the sweat that I had. So, all right, this is my top lineup from last week.
Let's go over yours. Mine sucked. There's my lineup review. I used Matt Wolff. And
and you use Matt Wolff. And
that's pretty much it for my big single entries. So
there you go. A withdrawal. We don't even have to go over it. Totally understand. This one for me, so the $100 contest last week was obviously, I thought was a good price point for me to make like 20-ish lineups, and that's what I did. I ended up having a profitable week, but not nearly as profitable as it could have been. So I had the lineup, as you see in front of you, started off with Rahm at the top, then went to Scott, Zalatoris, who I'm about to talk about, Kokrak, Homa, and Gim kind of as my middle price. Those guys played well. However, if I had John Rahm make birdie on 18 and Jason Kokrak make par on 18, which would have given a bogey-free round, I would have came in 10th. Instead, I came in 37th. I reached all the way to 3rd at one point in the day. It was fun to sweat it because it's a great event to watch. But, man, Jeff, are you surprised that this is what we go to the tight leaderboard? I got from 3rd to 37th in like a heartbeat.
I'm telling you something, man. You needed that Patrick Reed DQ.
Oh, so bad.
It's too bad. It's really too bad that Scott couldn't get it done or something like that. It's a great lineup. Got to keep playing the Gim Reaper. Homa's playing well. I love that play. It's another player I regret not playing last week. It's on my radar, and I just went another way. Zalatoris, great. Kokrak sets up great for Torrey Pines too, although he didn't really. She was fine. You make an eagle? No. Anyways, it's a great lineup. He just had the wrong guy win. I mean, that's the long and the short of it.
It's a great point. How about the Gim Reaper? 21 birdies, but 17 bogeys. This guy, I think if I'm going to pick a new Jordan Spieth, it's this guy. He makes so many birdies with his bogeys. It's crazy.
I really like it. Gim is a guy who you should just ride with. Like, don't get put off him by a miscut, because he'll bounce back. And even if he only finishes T25, like, he'll be in the top, 15 scorers because he makes so many birdies. I would really just keep playing Doug Gim. At least when he's priced like this. I mean, if he starts getting priced up or something, fine. But, when he's down there in the low 7Ks, great play right now for DFS.
So now I can transition back into Will Zalatoris. That's who I was going to talk about. Okay. At 45-1, we haven't seen him win on the PGA Tour. On the Corn Ferry Tour, he did win once or twice. But he's a guy that, when he's in form, Jeff, the top 10s rack up so quickly.
Oh, yeah.
That's kind of where I'm focused on. He had a top 10, 5.5-1 last week. He's going to be down to 2.5 to 3-1 this week, but I'm going to keep betting that because I think that's where he lands. He putted good enough for me, or well enough for me last week, where I think he's fine with a winning score of -17 this week. He looks to be in form, and I'm going to get behind this guy, even at 89 or 9,000 on DFS, which we'll talk about. I like betting on him first because I think it's a good payout.
I don't mind. I mean, look, I definitely think Zalatoris is the guy you should be considering every week, almost in the same vein as Gim, for DFS. I think you're getting pretty fair price here. At plus 5,000, I look at that range. Done with Koepka. I ain't betting Ricky right now. I'll probably take a shot with Louis just because I'm, a big fanboy, and he actually did play pretty well last week, so I'll get sucked in. But
good Sunday too.
Yeah, he did. I think the best play there, if considering we got to write Wolff off for the hand injury, even though I might sprinkle a little bit on him just to see, but I can't really recommend him. To me, it probably either comes down to Bubba or Zalatoris in that range as being the best bet. And I'm just not convinced. I mean, maybe I am convinced that Bubba has another win in him, but the putting is just so bad with him. And these greens are kind of tough to get around. So maybe it's an issue with Zalatoris too, but we've seen him be pretty sharp, like you said. I think I would probably lean there right now. So I don't have an issue in that range. For me, I kind of skipped this range this morning. Like I said, I sprinkled Louis already, but that's just an every week thing, whatever. So don't even have to listen to that. I went bigger to guys like Byung-Hun An and Brendan Steele and even Sam Burns up there.
That 4 putt to open up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you take that away and you take his 3 putt out of the way, 7 putts in 2 holes, you give him 4 putts in 2 holes, and he's in second alone.
Yeah.
So it's clearly not his ball striking.
No.
And this isn't the first time either, Jeff, that on Sunday, it's in his first 3 holes that he blows up. I don't know what it is, if he's just getting nervous in contention, but it's something to look at. If you look at his trails, the first 3 holes on Sunday are so bad.
Yep.
I just don't get it.
Yeah, no, I mean, it's probably a psychological block, right? You just can't, he gets himself in contention, builds it up too much, and he blows it before he even gets a chance. But it'll come eventually. He's still a young dude. And Burns is traditionally a better Bermuda putter as well. So, and then, Benny Ann and Brandon Steele, both guys who've had been in contention at this event before. And I think that's kind of key. You look back at past winners here. Hideki was in contention for 3 years before winning. Ricky was in contention a bunch of time. Webb lost in the playoff before winning. And even Woodland had played here a bunch of times. So I think experience does kind of matter on this course. I'm of the opinion, Byung-Hun An's a guy, 2-time playoff loser. He's got a bunch of runner-ups. Steele, we just saw compete. I like the odds on both those guys this week. I think if you're going to take big odds, those are the 2 guys I kind of snapped up the quickest, mainly because of the venue. A little bit of course history, I guess, playing into it.
Yeah, let's talk about Matthew Wolff for a second. Because 50-1, I'm in total agreement with you. Normally, it'd be an auto bet. As we've talked about before, here's a guy with a range of outcomes that easily goes to first, easily goes to a miscut. Here's the problem. He has a hand injury. Some people might have, it's a hand injury. Big deal. Is probably a blister. Solves itself. But Doesn't look like a blister. He has his pinky finger attached to his ring finger, taped. Seems like a problem. And when you look at his driving over the last 2 weeks, you look at those shot trails, he's nowhere close to the fairway. Distance is there, but obviously when your fingers are bothering you and you're such a handsy player already, which he clearly is, he has absolutely no control over the golf ball. I just can't play him until I see more control, until I see those 340-yard drives going in the fairway rather than going 40 yards offline, beyond 10 like he did last week. Just silly stuff. And for me, it's the same situation. Charlie Hoffman was tied for 18th, right, going into the third round of the American Express. Withdraws, tries to come back and play at Farmers and misses the cut. Why is he even playing in either of those events if he's hurt? I'm taking the same situation with Matthew Wolff here. Maybe they think they can play through the injury or whatnot, but I'm taking the same approach. And in terms of how I'm playing that, well, what I go do is I go and see who he's matched up against, and they've pulled him off the board in terms of a matchup. They're not even putting one out there yet.
Yeah.
So that goes to show me that the books don't even want to get involved. I'm certainly not even going to touch it.
Yeah. Again, you see, Matthew Wolff's the type of guy who, if you ever see him at these odds, you should probably just bet him. But like, there's clearly regardless of what the injury is, it's clearly affecting his ball flight. And I mean, like coming down the stretch, like hitting tee shots off like 15, 17, you really want a guy who's that, going to be that affected. It just creates a situation where, there's going to be a double in play at some point. So I don't know. It's tempting. Like I said, I might get in there I'll definitely be hunting for news as the week goes on, but it shouldn't be at the top of your priority list for sure.
Yep, I totally agree. And like I said, if they end up posting a first round matchup or a tournament matchup, I'll be betting against them. I'll be shorting them in the markets that way, just for that purposes. Okay, you mentioned Byung-Hun An. I think I love that call. I'm going to tail that as well. I think he looks like he's like maybe in the 100-1 range. Quickly, let's each give a bomb that you found above 125-1. First guy that I found that first start was okay. Second start got a little bit better last week, and maybe this week it's the cap off. We get inside the top 20. It's Wyndham Clark, 150-1, 54th, 32nd. I think we're trending the right direction. Also going to be his third time around this golf course. Again, a guy that relies on his driver and his putter, and the irons are typically his not strong suit. Actually, it's his really downfall. He's been pretty bad with it. But as I look up last week quickly, again, last week, as you can see, he lost 2.2 strokes in the 3 rounds with his approaches, but gained 2.4 with the putter and gained 3.3 with the driver. So we're just waiting for 1 week with the irons to click. And when it does, I think it's an easy top 15, top 10 for him.
Fair enough, man. I'm definitely on Team Wyndham Clark. So, I think he's a guy you can keep chasing right now. We saw really good form from him at the end of last year. And I think you'll probably see a couple more bigger finishes before, that the start of the season is kind of over in this, like maybe in this West Coast swing. So
yep.
I'm, again, you just keep getting bigger odds on them. You might as well just keep riding them because these are talented dudes. Yeah, they're a little inconsistent, but I don't mind it at all. And I'm taking the same approach with Doc Redman. Guy who really ranks out well. Like if you look at the bigger picture and step back again, strokes gain approach in there. Again, I mentioned, you've got to hit like tiers of the screen and stuff like that. He's been like, he's been objectively bad 4 straight starts, but again, like it hasn't necessarily been, he's been so off. Like, he was right on the kind of cut line last week. He's the type of player too, who he's done this throughout his whole career. He's a couple good finishes, just lollygag for like a month, and then like again, just like he pops up with like a top 10. So I could see that happening here. I think Phoenix is slightly easier
track than Torrey. Yep.
Track than Torrey. I think it sets up better for him. Very similar game to like Webb Simpson. He's going to hit a ton of fairways, and his approach game is probably going to be better than most people. And we've seen that formula really work at Phoenix. So I'll give him 1 week here. He's plus 550 on DK Sportsbook. I just think that's too big for him, quite frankly. Like he shouldn't really be that big in these type of events. So we'll see. If he puts in one more bad performance, he might get on the bench for me for a bit. But realistically, I'll take advantage of those odds this week.
One more guy that I'm shorting before we move on to our DFS preview, which we had salaries pretty early, so we've had a little bit of time at least to go over him, is Jason Day. And I shorted him last week. I'm going to short him again, not only Do we have him kind of figuring out what equipment he's going to use? But he switched coaches. He's gone to Chris Como, and what he's working on with Chris Como is trying to find a golf swing that he doesn't have to swing as hard to hit the ball as far because of his back. That sounds pretty terrible for results right now. Down the road, longevity of his career, probably great. It definitely is great. But right now, in this exact moment, for the next 2, 3, maybe 4 months, maybe 2 years, we've seen Jordan Spieth have a 2.5-year drought. I think Jason Day going through these swing changes is heading towards something like that. Listen, I think he's an absolute world-class player. I really like him as a person, not that that matters here. I think he's a great individual, a good role model, hasn't gotten caught doing anything bad, but he's just not good at golf right now. And I think up against Max Homa this week, who seems to be trending in the right direction, I'll take Max Homa as a way to short Jason Day.
Sure. I don't mind it. Yeah, I memean, that was one of the salaries that stuck out while we're on the, obviously as a transition, but Jason Day at 7,800 really stuck out. I'm like, wow. I mean, but yeah, Max Homa's playing really well. So I don't even mind that call. And realistically, Day doesn't suck us in this week with like course history or anything like that. So
thankfully,
I don't know. You could make some kind of case, I guess, like maybe it's an easier course if he's going through swing changes, but maybe the putter will get firing. But I'm not. I won't be rostering Jason Day this week either. I don't think.
Yeah, it's tough. And now, granted, and it's a perfect segue into our DFS preview here this week. It's a perfect segue that the top end of this board is definitely stacked. We've got 5 of the world's top 10 here. But what DK did was they kind of priced them down a little bit, in my opinion. I had John Rahm scheduled at around 11.4, 11.5 with 3 other guys above 11. But they went Rahm at 11.2, Schauffele at 11, then followed by Thomas and McIlroy. So I think what we were going to do here this week is it seems like it's probably going to be a lot of 2 of these guys up here now because the salaries are lower. And if you check this 9K to 8K range, I don't know that any of them are playing good right now at all. Siwoo Kim obviously won a couple of weeks ago, but I think that the 9 to 8K section is really rather weak. So I think that's going to lead to a lot of double ups up top here, which is then going to push people down to that 7,300, 7,400 range. Kind of just my general thoughts. What do you think of the pricing? Were you a little bit, I won't call it weak, but it does seem like they priced guys down from what I expected.
Yeah, it's gonna drive up the ownership on Thomas, Rory a little bit, and I think mainly Rahm. Well, and Webb too, actually, down there.
Yeah, all of them, yep.
And you can probably throw Hideki in there, even though like he's coming off like not a great performance. The course history will get him. So realistically, the top 6 guys, I think, actually we'll throw Berger in there too. The top 7 guys, I don't think you'll get much lower ownership. You'll get guys like maybe we'll get Rory at a decent number actually because he hasn't played here before. I could see that, which I'd really like. I'll be rooting for that. People probably pay it for Schauffele and Thomas. They're the names that always get ownership. And then, Berger, Simpson, Matsuyama, great course history. So I think you'll see some flat ownership. Some guys stick out. I think Berger will get a lot of ownership. Yep. And then you're right. There's going to be some opportunity here, man. Take chances in the 8K range. I don't really want to play any of these guys either, but like
exactly.
Ricky, Brooks, God, Brooks.
No.
Scheffler, 9,100.
Well, let's talk about him for a second.
Sure.
Missed on the number at the American Express, right? So not a bad miscut. All miscuts aren't created equal. Maybe they should be. But for Scheffler, missed on the number, then goes out and shoots 700 on the North Course, and you're like, oh, good. It was just a 1-week blip. Then bombs on Friday, shoots 79, misses the cut. Does that mean we're close, or does that mean we're far away from top game?
Well, and if you look at Scheffler's career, like he doesn't miss a lot of cuts in a row, right? Like
I am concerned.
Back pretty quick. So yeah, Scheffler is probably the guy in this range that I'm going to be the most apt to take a shot with,
especially under 10% ownership, which I expect.
Yeah, and I think realistically, there's longer term problems with. Obviously, Wolff is injured. There's longer term problems with Koepka and Fowler right now, in my opinion. So I don't think Scheffler has a longer term problem. I think Scheffler is just, he's a younger golfer. Maybe hasn't started the season as he wanted. Maybe the approaches aren't quite there, but they're obviously kind of close. I mean, it's 65 on the North Course, like you said. So we're not so far off here, missing cuts by like 1 stroke that you need to get worried yet. Now, maybe if he misses another one, we'll get worried. But I think Scheffler is definitely where I would go for hopefully some lower ownership this week. And I think we might get it because Palmer's up there. Zalatoris, more people will be apt to take a shot on him.
Definitely.
My Louis following will get a little bit of ownership, so I like that there. I like Schauffele to take a shot with for GPPs.
Yeah, opening thought is that people end up just clicking Thomas McIlroy, Schauffele McIlroy, Rahm Simpson, something like that, and he just is totally forgotten.
Yeah.
Yep. So as we move down in this, we'll call it 8,900 because I don't want to include Zalatoris because you and I would both pick him. Actually, I'm going to go below Oosthuizen because I know you'll pick him. 8,800 to 8,000. Koepka, Wolff, Fowler, Watson, Horschel, Woodland, Henley, Kim, Harman. Harman seems overpriced, although he's played pretty well and scored pretty well recently. Kim just won, obviously, missed the cut last week, so maybe a little bit of regression. Russell Henley certainly going through it. I guess the name that I would first click based on recent history and course history would be Gary Woodland. He's looked much better. How about you? Is he the first name you're clicking in this range?
I'm still not convinced Woodland is all the way there, but it doesn't look like he's getting closer. So I can't just write him off completely. I think I would go Bubba, to be honest. I think I'd be okay with it. He was really good tee to green. He's a really good scorer. He's got the course history here that we like. I think I would give Bubba the edge there. I think you go back to last season. This dude was trending in like top 5 strokes gained tee to green every week. Tee to green, he's playing like as good as almost as good as Dustin Johnson. He's just obviously the putting, nowhere close. But we're talking DFS. He's only 8,500. I think I would lean him, to be honest, in this range. It would be like between him, Woodland, and I'd kind of put Henley and Siwoo just to maybe a tier below him and Woodland. But I think I'd lean Bubba.
So Billy Horschel, I think, is an interesting case. And somebody said in our chat, appreciate the comment. I think he's only missed once in the last decade in terms of missed cuts. That was Tokyo Swan. Thank you for that. And it is. It's pretty good, the history here. I'm not going to disagree with that. Last week, although I think he took Jason Day in one of those down to the wire, came in second at Torrey. For me, it doesn't seem like a good golf course for Billy Horschel. He had relied on his driver and his putter for his results over the first 2 weeks or first 2 or 3 starts, but he's not that consistently good off the tee. He was just going through a good period. So I figured that if we had a regression in the off the tee game, he's not very good with his irons right now. He'd really have to lean on the putter, and you can't just lean on the putter at Torrey. So it was an easy miscut. However, this week, even if we don't have the driving accuracy as good, I think it's a better spot. I don't think I'm going to get there that much at 8,400. I'd rather see him in the 7,700 range, maybe 7,500, down there. I can't pay 8,400 for him, although I think it's a much better spot than last week.
Yeah, pretty much in agreement. I'm not going to pay 8,400 for him when, like I said, I think Siwoo and Henley are trending better in a lot of different ways right now.
And Siwoo should have made the cut, actually. I don't think I mentioned that. He definitely should have made the cut last week. I think he made double on the last hole, but got caught in that hailstorm that they blew the horn for like an hour. He hit the tee shot before they blew the horn, which it was 30 mile an hour and hailing. He couldn't find it. So he should have made the cut. Yeah.
And you shouldn't read too much into the Torrey results for guys to miss cuts. Sometimes it's beneficial for guys to miss the cut there and then come to Phoenix.
Yeah.
You've seen Matsuyama do that a million times. I think it's a good setup for Siwoo. He can be aggressive. It's a stadium Bermuda course. We know what he did at TPC Sawgrass. I'm definitely into Siwoo in this range the more I think about it. I definitely like him. I'd probably put him in front of Henley, to be honest, which is
that's tough for you.
Yeah, exactly. It is. Siwoo is playing really good. And it's like, we've got really consistent results from him. So I think he's still in that category of, well, he just won, so I can't play him, So I think 81 is actually a really good price for Siwoo there.
Yeah, especially coming off the miscut. That, again, I'll use the line, all miscuts are not made equal, in my opinion. And that one from Siwoo Kim was definitely not equal to some of the others that we saw.
Good, I didn't know that, actually, about him last week. So.
Yeah. I remember watching the shot trail. I just had him on one decent team, and I'm like, oh, I'm going to get 6 of 6 here because he was at 2 under, and then he got caught in the hailstorm, and that's not how it went. So, all right, below 8,000 as we got maybe 60 seconds or 120 seconds here left. Another miscut that's not made all equal would be Jordan Spieth last week. He got it to 4 under at one point and made 4 bogeys in his last 13 holes to miss the cut. Brutal from him. Got Cam Champ, whose miscut probably was real, had one good round, one bad round again, but I'll bring up Cam Champ, 7,600. I think he's firmly in play this week. I don't think he's in as bad a form as the results are showing right now.
Yeah, and Champ is one of those dudes who, like, he'll flop around for a bit, but like the driver is always there. It's not like he's not driving it bad.
Right.
He'll get the rest of his game figured out, and when he does, he'll go from missing cuts to top 20, making a ton of birdies. So yeah, he's absolutely in play this week. I agree. He's volatile. He's GPP only. Like, don't get me wrong, but and realistically, you look at this range. People are probably going to say, "Oh, maybe I should play Norlander." You know, Chris Kirk's playing okay. Kuchar's there. Burns just played well last week. We'll probably get good ownership on him, Jason, too. So I like it. I laid off him last week, but I'll probably have some Cam Champ this week. The price is down too, so I don't disagree. Lower down, just quickly, my guy Benny's there, so we'll take a shot with him. Aaron Wise, maybe. This might be actually a good spot for Aaron Wise. So I might even dip my toes back into the Aaron Wise pool, which is always a disaster. So just keep that in mind.
Always a fun sweat, maybe another way to put it. So, all right, before we get out of here, below 7,000 now, I've got 6 guys put in a lineup here just so that I can give you kind of a thing. All 6 guys I think are in play this week and I think are interesting. I'll have in some of my lineups. Why don't you give me your top play and I'll tell you if it's in this lineup. And if not, I want to give you one more guess after your top play to see if you can get one of them.
Okay, so keep this in mind because I've only gone through the 6K range once. So my opinion here could change throughout the week, but I kind of like James Hahn this week.
Okay. He was not in the lineup.
James Hahn. I'm going to say James Hahn. I know he missed the cut last week, but he's got a pretty good record here. He's playing well before that. I'm going to go with Hahn. I'm going to stick with it.
Okay. I like that call. He was not in this lineup. So one more guess, and then I'll tell you the 2 guys that I'm keen to this week down here. So one more guess of the guys that I have in the lineup below 7,000.
Okay.
I'll give you one hint. The guy has been absolute fire with his irons lately, kind of going to something that you said at the top of the show, that it's breeding a little bit more consistency, focusing on these guys that are super good with the approach. And this guy has gained. Kyle Stanley, is that what you said?
Yeah.
Yeah, it is Kyle Stanley. He is in the lineup. Yep. And Jazzer has pointed out last week, he's been incredibly good. And again, a nice pop off last week, had a good finish, T18. Was that the height of it, or are you interested this week?
No, I am. I actually almost said Stanley for my pick, but I went with Hahn. Stanley kind of burned me at I think it was the Sony, but again, let's not hold it against him. Obviously, has won here before. No, I've been tracking Stanley ever since that T6 at the RSM. When he gets his irons in play, man, he'll just keep firing. So I definitely put him on the list there as well. I think he's probably a better cash game player than Hahn too. Hahn is, I think Hahn might have better upside, but both those guys to me are in place. So yeah, I like it. No, absolutely. Who was the other dude?
Yeah, my last 2 were Tom Lewis. Seemed like
I like Tom Lewis. I mean, I'm always Tom Lewis.
Yeah, 6,500. I mean, this guy can definitely score. Great, he's going to miss a lot of cuts, but I like him. And Doc Redman was the other guy, 6,600. I mean, I know he's not playing good, but we're getting real cheap with Doc Redman, so a guy to keep an eye on. So we've got a great stretch of golf. We're in a great stretch of golf. We got obviously TPC Scottsdale this week. Next week, let's see. Next week is Riviera, if I'm not mistaken, and then we go to Pebble after that. So just 3 really good tournaments. Stick with us. Of course, like and subscribe to our channel as Jeff and I are coming out with content all week. And make sure you'll get notified, of course, if you are subscribed to our channel when we come live with that. Of course, our written content on the show. And join us on the premium side. You get to talk to Jeff and I whenever you want through our premium Slack channel and so much more. So good luck this week, everybody, at the Waste Management Phoenix Open. Enjoy the sights and the sounds, and good luck. See you next week.
Thanks, guys.